The wind howls down from the Taunus Mountains, a raw, wet beast that carries the scent of pine and frozen mud. It whips across the parade ground of the 14th Legion Gemina, rattling the leather sterages on the legionaries' armor and slicing through the thick wool cloaks of two figures who stand utterly alien amidst the disciplined geometry of the Roman camp. These are not prisoners. They are envoys. Aramir, chieftain of the Chatti, pulls his bearskin cloak tighter. His knuckles are white where he grips the shaft of his ceremonial spear, its iron head a dark leaf against the oppressive gray sky. His beard, a wild tangle of red and frost, stiffens with each breath. Beside him, Gundahar of the Cherushi, a man whose clan once shattered 3 Roman legions in the Teutoburg forest, shifts his weight from one hide-wrapped foot to the other. The packed earth of the Roman Principia is frozen solid, a world away from the yielding, mossy floor of his longhouse. They have been summoned, not by the sword, but by a parchment scroll bearing the seal of Gaius Valerius Flaccus, the Legatus Augusti pro praetore. The new emperor, Titus, seeks to reaffirm the treaties forged by his father, Vespasian. Rome speaks of trade, of tribute, of peace. But here, surrounded by eagle standards, the rhythmic thud of hobnailed caligae on stone, and the cold, professional stares of centurions, the message feels less like a negotiation and more like a command. A decurion, his helmet's horsehair crest dyed a deep crimson, approaches. The legate's convoy is prepared, he states in guttural Latin, his gaze lingering on the Germans' heavy axes. You will travel south, to Augusta Treverorum. The journey is an assault on their senses. They are accustomed to the winding, treacherous paths of the deep forest, to the seasonal whims of rivers and bogs. Now, they find themselves on a road, a concept so simple, yet so profound. It is a straight gray spear of gravel and stone, thrusting through the heart of the wilderness, ignoring hills, spanning streams with impossibly perfect arched bridges. Milestones, carved with the emperor's titles, tick off the distance with relentless precision. Their escort, a cohort of auxiliaries from Gaul, moves with a tireless, synchronized gait that eats away the leagues. For days, they travel deeper into the empire. The forests recede, replaced by organized fields, vineyards clinging to the hillsides, and stone farmhouses with tiled roofs. The air, though still cold, loses some of its northern bite. But the dampness remains, a persistent chill that seeps into their bones. The rain is a constant companion, turning their furs into heavy, sodden burdens. Finally, after a week of travel, the convoy crests a hill overlooking the Moselle River Valley. Below them, nestled in a curve of the river, lies a sprawling estate. This is no fortified camp. It is a villa, a palace of white stone and red tile surrounded by manicured gardens now sleeping under the winter sky. Its sheer scale is breathtaking. It is a declaration of wealth and power more potent than any legionary fortress. As they descend the final slope towards the villa's grand portico, the rain intensifies, a cold, miserable downpour. The Gallic cavalrymen guiding them seem unconcerned. Aramir and Gundahar exchange a look, a shared moment of apprehension and defiance. They are warriors of the frozen forests, men who pride themselves on their endurance, their ability to withstand the harshest of winters. They have slept in snowdrifts and hunted in blizzards. Yet, as they dismount before the towering bronze doors of the villa, shivering in their wet hides, they feel a deep, gnawing cold that has nothing to do with the weather. They are about to step into a world they cannot possibly comprehend, a world where the very elements have been tamed, a world of impossible luxury built on Roman fire. The bronze doors swing inward, not with a groan of strained metal, but with a smooth, silent pivot that speaks of masterful engineering. The two chieftains are prepared for the interior of a great hall as they know it, a vast, smoky space dominated by a central fire pit, its flames leaping towards a soot-stained hole in the roof, the air thick with the smell of burning wood and roasting meat. They brace for a cavernous chill, only marginally better than the open air. What they meet is not a chill, but a physical presence. A wave of dry, pleasant heat washes over them, an invisible blanket that stops the wind dead and begins to coax the deep, icy damp from their bones. Aramir flinches, his hand instinctively going to the axe at his belt. Gundahar stops short on the threshold, his eyes wide, his breath catching in his throat. The air does not smell of smoke. It carries the faint, clean scent of cedarwood and something floral, like dried herbs. There's no roaring fire, no swirling ash, no flickering light. The vast atrium is lit by oil lamps of polished bronze, their steady glow reflecting off walls of gleaming marble veined with gray and rose. The floor is a dizzying mosaic of a sea god wrestling a kraken, its colored stones so perfectly fitted that the surface seems like a single, painted sheet. And from this floor, from the very stones beneath their feet, rises the impossible warmth. A man emerges from the peristyle garden deeper within. He is not a soldier. He wears a fine wool tunic of Tyrian purple, its color so deep it is almost black, and his face is clean-shaven, his hair meticulously oiled. He is Lucius Cornelius, the villa's procurator, the man responsible for its flawless operation. He offers a slight, polite bow that is more a gesture of condescension than respect. "Welcome, chieftains of the Chatti and Cherushi," Lucius says in crisp, educated Latin. "The legate Valerius Flaccus awaits you, but first, you must be made comfortable. The journey from the frontier is harsh." Aramir's eyes dart around the hall, searching for the source of the heat. He sees no braziers, no hearths built into the walls. His gaze is drawn to a statue of Mars, a perfect marble form whose cold, lifeless eyes seem to mock his confusion. He takes a hesitant step forward, his hide-wrapped boot making a soft, out-of-place scuff on the mosaic. The stone is warm, not hot, not like a hearthstone, but imbued with a deep, persistent warmth that radiates upward through the sole of his boot. He frowns, a deep furrow in his brow. This is sorcery. Lucius smiles, a thin, knowing expression. He sees their disbelief. It is a look he has seen before on the faces of provincials and barbarians, a mixture of awe and suspicion that never fails to amuse him. "The chill does not enter this house," he says, gesturing for them to follow. "Civilization is the art of commanding nature, not merely enduring it." He leads them deeper into the villa, their wet cloaks dripping onto the pristine floor, leaving dark trails that seem to profane the space. They pass through a portico supported by columns of polished granite, overlooking a central garden where, even in winter, evergreen shrubs are arranged in perfect geometric patterns. All the while, the consistent, gentle heat envelops them. It is a stark contrast to the world they know, where warmth is always coupled with smoke, with the danger of a stray spark, with the necessity of being huddled close to the flames. Here, warmth is simply present. It is part of the air, part of the building itself. Gundahar, less suspicious and more practical than his companion, subtly runs a hand along a marble-sheathed wall. It is cool to the touch, as stone should be. Yet the air beside it is warm. The mystery deepens. He glances at Aramir, whose hand has not strayed from his weapon. The Chatti warrior is like a wolf in a gilded cage, overwhelmed by sensations he cannot process, his instincts screaming that something is profoundly unnatural. "Before your audience with the legate," Lucius continues, his voice smooth and untroubled, "you will wish to avail yourselves of the baths, to wash away the road and its fatigues." He stops before an archway that leads into another wing of the villa. The air wafting from it is even warmer, and now it carries a hint of steam. The legate insists. It is the Roman way. Lucius points down at the floor beneath their feet, a different mosaic of dolphins and nereids. A marvel, is it not? The very foundation provides the comfort you feel. Gundahar, emboldened by curiosity, crouches down. He presses his palm flat against the mosaic tiles. The heat is undeniable, a steady, penetrating warmth that seems to emanate from the world's very core. He looks up at Lucius, his eyes filled with a question he doesn't know how to ask. How can stone be made to bleed heat? Lucius leads them into the apoditerium, the changing room of the baths. The warmth here is more pronounced, the air softer. Niches are carved into the walls where neatly folded linen towels are stacked. A slave, a silent youth with Nubian features, approaches to take their sodden, reeking furs. Aramir hesitates, his grip tightening on the bear cloak that is as much a part of his identity as his beard. To be stripped of it, to be made naked in this place of bewildering artifice, feels like a surrender. Gundahar, however, shrugs off his wolfskin, his practical nature overriding his unease. The promise of shedding the road's filth and icy damp is too great. Reluctantly, Aramir follows suit. Their weapons are taken, placed carefully on a marble bench by the Nubian slave, whose deference does nothing to soothe the chieftain's exposed vulnerability. Without their axes and spears, clad only in simple linen wraps provided for them, they feel diminished, their barbarian strength and ferocity rendered irrelevant amidst the polished stone and serene warmth. First, the tepidarium, Lucius announces, guiding them through another archway, to acclimate the body. The room they enter is a masterpiece of gentle heat. The air is warmer still, but soft and pleasant. Sunlight, diffused through a high window of thinly scraped horn, illuminates a vast, tranquil space. The floor, another intricate mosaic, radiates a comforting warmth that travels up their legs. A large, shallow pool of heated water shimmers in the center of the room. Roman citizens, merchants, and minor officials, by the look of their soft, untroubled bodies, lounge on marble benches, chatting in low, relaxed voices. They barely glance at the two towering, scarred barbarians who enter their sanctuary. To them, Aramir and Gundahar are just another curiosity, another piece of the imperial machine brought to the center for processing. Gundahar, ever the pragmatist, dips a hand into the central pool. The water is perfectly, impossibly warm. He looks at Aramir, a slow grin spreading across his face. "This is good magic, my friend," he murmurs in their native tongue. Aramir does not smile. He stalks the perimeter of the room like a caged beast, his eyes scanning every detail, still searching for the fire. He sees no hearth, no vent, nothing but sealed walls and that impossibly warm floor. His warrior's mind, trained to assess threats and understand the mechanics of the world, the leverage of an axe, the flight of a spear, the properties of fire and ice, is utterly stumped. This place defies all known laws. From the tepidarium, Lucius ushers them into the next chamber, the caldarium. The change is immediate and shocking. They step through the doorway into a wall of heat and steam so thick it is almost liquid. The air is heavy, hot, and wet, clinging to their skin and catching in their lungs. The temperature is staggering, hotter than the most intense sweat lodge of their homelands. The room is smaller, more intimate, its vaulted ceiling trapping the roiling clouds of steam. A wide, stepped bath filled with steaming hot water occupies one side of the room, while a basin of cold water, the labrum, sits in a niche on the other. Gundahar gasps, the hot, moist air a shock to his system. But after a moment, the heat begins to work its magic, penetrating deep into his muscles, unknotting the aches of the long ride, drawing out the last vestiges of the forest's chill. He sinks onto a heated marble bench, letting out a long, shuddering sigh of pure animal contentment. Aramir remains standing, his body rigid, sweat beading on his brow and mingling with the condensation. He feels trapped, suffocated. This intense, disembodied heat feels like a trap. Where does it come from? How can a room be this hot without a raging inferno at its center? He presses a hand to the wall. It is hot to the touch. The floor beneath his bare feet is almost too hot to stand on comfortably. He feels a primal fear rising within him, the fear of an invisible enemy, an unseen force that can generate such power. A Roman senator, a portly man with a wreath of thinning gray hair, chuckles at his discomfort. "The German seems to believe he is in Vulcan's forge," he remarks to a companion, who laughs in agreement. Lucius, ever the guide, points towards a small grated opening in the wall near the floor. "The source is not magic, chieftain," he says, his voice cutting through the steam. "It is engineering. The breath of the furnace flows beneath your feet, and within these walls." Aramir stares at the small grate. A faint, dry heat emanates from it. The breath of the furnace, beneath their feet? The concept is so alien, so audacious, that he cannot fully grasp it. A fire hidden under the world, its heat piped like water through the very bones of the building. He imagines a great beast, a dragon of fire and smoke, chained in the earth below, its exhalations warming this temple of stone and steam. The idea is both terrifying and magnificent. He begins to understand that the power of Rome is not just in its legions or its stone roads. It is in its mastery over the very elements, a power that could turn the dead of winter into a summer's day. The bath is a revelation. Guided by slaves who scrape their skin with bronze strigils, oil their bodies, and sluice them with buckets of perfectly heated water, the two chieftains experience a level of physical comfort they had never imagined possible. Gundahar gives himself over to it completely, laughing as a slave pours cold water over his head from the labrum, the shock a delightful counterpoint to the sweltering heat. Even Aramir, his suspicion warring with the undeniable pleasure, feels the tension draining from his body, the knots in his shoulders and back loosening for the first time in months. The dirt and grime of the road, the ingrained scent of pine smoke and old leather, are washed away, replaced by the clean aroma of olive oil and herbs. When they are finally led from the baths, wrapped in thick, dry linen, they feel reborn. Their skin tingles, their minds are clear, and the world seems sharper, more vibrant. The persistent, gnawing cold that has been their constant companion since leaving their forested homelands is gone, replaced by a deep, cellular warmth. But Aramir's mind is not at rest. The mystery of the invisible fire still consumes him. As they are being led back through the villa's corridors towards the triclinium where they will dine with the legate, he stops. He turns to Lucius, his gaze direct and unwavering. "Show me," he says, the Latin word simple, a command rather than a request. Lucius raises an eyebrow, surprised by the barbarian's audacity. "Show you what, chieftain?" "The fire," Aramir insists, "the beast you have chained beneath this house." Gundahar looks at his friend, a flicker of concern in his eyes. To make demands of their hosts, to show such untoward curiosity, could be seen as an insult. But Lucius, after a moment of consideration, gives a slight, almost imperceptible shrug. The legate is not yet ready. A small detour would do no harm, and perhaps further impress upon these forest dwellers the futility of resisting an empire that could perform such miracles. "Very well," Lucius says, a hint of theatricality in his voice. "If you wish to see the heart of the villa, follow me." But it is not a place of comfort. He leads them away from the opulent residential quarters through a series of stark utilitarian corridors. The fine mosaics give way to plain flagstones, the marble-clad walls to rough-hewn stone. The air grows cooler, and now, for the first time, they can smell it, the faint, acrid scent of wood smoke. Lucius unbars a heavy wooden door and leads them down a steep flight of stone steps into the villa's undercroft. The change is instantaneous and dramatic. They descend from a world of serene, civilized warmth into a Dantean vision of labor and fire. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of sweat. The ceiling is low, a web of massive stone pillars, hundreds of them, each about 2 feet high, that support the floor of the rooms above. This is the suspensura, the raised floor, and the space between the pillars is the hypocaust itself. In the center of this cavernous cellar is the profernium, the furnace. It is a massive brick archway, glowing with a malevolent orange light. Half-naked slaves, their bodies lean and corded with muscle, their skins slick with sweat and streaked with soot, feed at a constant diet of timber. They work in a rhythmic, desperate silence, their movements illuminated by the roaring flames within. The heat here is not the gentle, pervasive warmth of the baths. It is a raw, violent, oppressive force that blasts the skin and dries the throat. Aramir and Gundahar stand frozen at the bottom of the steps, mesmerized. They are looking at the villa's secret heart, the engine of its impossible comfort. The flames roar inside the brick furnace, and the superheated air and smoke, instead of rising through a chimney, are channeled horizontally into the sprawling labyrinth of pillars. They can see the hot air shimmering as it flows through the underfloor space, a ghostly river of heat, before being drawn up through clay flues, the tubuli, embedded within the villa's walls. It is a machine, a vast, intricate, fire-breathing machine. Aramir finally understands. The floor above is not bleeding heat by magic. It is the top of a giant, flat stove, heated from below. The walls are not just walls. They are chimneys, carrying the furnace's breath throughout the entire structure before venting it harmlessly through the roof. He looks from the roaring fire to the sweating slaves, men whose lives are spent in this sweltering darkness, their existence dedicated solely to feeding the beast. He sees the immense piles of wood, a small forest's worth, stacked against the far wall, ready to be consumed. He understands, in that moment, the sheer scale of the resources and manpower required to create the effortless luxury he just experienced. This comfort, this civilization, is built upon a foundation of relentless toil and ravenous consumption. It is not magic. It is something far more formidable. It is a system, a vast, organized, and brutally efficient system for bending the world to its will. Gundahar simply shakes his head in awe. "They burn a forest to keep one house warm," he whispers, his voice filled with a reverence that borders on fear. Aramir says nothing. He just stares into the flames, his face grim. He has seen the source of Rome's power, and it is not a legion's eagle or an emperor's decree. It is this, the ability to chain fire, to enslave men to feed it, and to build a world of impossible summer in the heart of winter. Lucius allows them a moment to absorb the scene before clapping his hands, a sharp, imperious sound that cuts through the furnace's roar. "Enough. The legate will be waiting. This is no place for guests." As they ascend the stone steps, leaving the smoke and oppressive heat behind, the transition back to the villa's main level is jarring. The air becomes clean and serenely warm again, the rough stone giving way to polished marble underfoot. The world of toil and fire vanishes as if it had never been, hidden once more beneath a veneer of effortless perfection. But something has fundamentally shifted for the two chieftains. They can no longer see the villa as a place of magic. They now feel the heat on their skin and know the immense hidden labor that produces it. The building is no longer a mystery, but a statement of power, its comfort a testament to Rome's ability to organize, to command, and to consume. They are led to the triclinium, the dining hall. It is a room designed to impress. The walls are covered in vibrant frescoes depicting scenes from Greek mythology, the labors of Hercules, the judgment of Paris. 3 large couches, upholstered in rich fabrics, are arranged around a low central table of citrus wood, its surface polished to a mirror shine, and the entire room is suffused with the same impossible, even warmth they have come to expect. Gaius Valerius Flaccus, legate of the 14th Legion Gemina and governor of the province, is already reclining on the central couch. He is a man in his late 40s, his military bearing softened by the comforts of his station. He is not clad in armor, but in a fine white toga with a broad purple stripe, the garment of a senator. His face is intelligent, his eyes sharp and analytical. He gestures for the Germans to take their places on the guest couches. "Welcome," he says, his Latin formal but not unfriendly. "I trust you found the baths restorative." "We did," Gundahar replies, cautiously reclining on the unfamiliar furniture. "It feels strange and decadent to eat lying down. Your hospitality is formidable." Aramir remains silent, his posture stiff even as he reclines. His mind is still in the cellar, picturing the slaves feeding the furnace. He looks at the lavish spread being brought in on silver platters, roasted peacock, dormice and honey, oysters from the coast, and sees not just food, but another part of the same vast logistical machine that heats the floors. A machine that brings the ocean's bounty hundreds of miles inland, that raises exotic birds for a single meal, that moves mountains of timber to fuel its creature comforts. The legate notices Aramir's silence. "Your companion is quiet," he remarks to Gundahar. "Does our Roman comfort not agree with him?" "He is overwhelmed," Gundahar says, making an excuse. "In our lands, warmth comes from a hearth you can see, from a fire shared by the entire clan in the longhouse. It is the center of life, the warmth of family, of stories told in the dark." Valerius Flaccus nods, taking a sip of wine from a silver goblet. "I understand. Your warmth is communal. Ours is personal. Here, a man of status need not share his warmth with anyone. He can command it for his own private pleasure in any room of his house. That is the difference between a clan and an empire. We have mastered the art of privacy, of individual comfort." The legate's words strike Aramir more profoundly than any threat of military force. The Roman concept is utterly alien. In his world, a large fire meant a powerful chieftain, a man who could provide for his people, a fire around which the entire tribe gathered. Its warmth was a measure of collective strength and security. But here, warmth was a private luxury, a commodity hoarded by one man in a sprawling palace, generated by the unseen labor of others. It was a warmth of isolation, not community. Throughout the dinner, the legate speaks of treaties, of trade routes, of tribute to be paid in amber and hides. He speaks of the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, as a gift the emperor bestows upon compliant tribes. He promises them access to Roman markets, to Roman goods, to a share of the empire's immense wealth. Gundahar is captivated. He imagines his people with Roman steel, Roman wine, perhaps even Roman engineers to build a modest bathhouse for his own village. He sees a path to greater power and comfort for his clan, a future intertwined with the empire's. Aramir, however, hears only the subtext. He sees the cost of the heated floors, the price of the peacock on the platter. He sees the slaves in the cellar, the endless columns of legionaries on the stone roads, the inexorable logic of a system that turns everything, wood, stone, men, and entire nations, into fuel for its own relentless expansion. He understands that to accept Rome's gift is to become another cog in their machine. To trade the cold, harsh, but shared warmth of the longhouse fire for the comfortable, private, but isolating heat of the Hippocust. It was a bargain that would cost them their soul. As the meal ends and the final promises are made, Gundahar is smiling, ready to pledge his clan's loyalty. Aramir's face is like a mask carved from winter stone. He has seen the hidden fires of Rome, and he knows, with chilling certainty, that their warmth is more dangerous than the coldest German winter.